Hello, and welcome to I've Ran Out of Things to Say podcast. My name is Vincent. I'm here with Cody.
How you doing?
And we have a special guest with us tonight. Would you like to introduce yourself?
Hi, it's Ryan again.
Oh, look at that. Ryan came back. He came back.
The very next day.
So, obviously, it is October, and we are doing a couple of podcasts that are going to be pre-recorded. Unfortunately, I'm going to be out of town, and no matter how much I push Cody to record on his own, he's giving me a look that, no, I'm not going to do it.
I'm scared.
Not gonna be able to do it!
I'm scared. No, it's that I'm scared.
It wouldn't be too bad. I mean, come on now. So these are going to be pre-recorded. We're going to be talking about famous monsters. The Evil Dead.
Yes.
So, starting that off, Cody, what is our first topic tonight?
Our first topic tonight is zombies.
Zombies.
All kinds of zombies.
Being that we have a guest, Ryan, would you like to explain what zombies are?
Well, I guess the most positive or popular viewpoint is they are undead, flesh-eating monsters that are slow and lumbering, pretty useless by themselves, but in a group, they are extremely terrifying and deadly.
Yeah.
Exactly.
There is several different types of zombies.
Of course.
Oh no.
There's feral zombies, undead zombies, virus zombies, animal zombies, fish zombies, plant zombies, all kinds of zombies. Zombies, kitty zombies that are right up on my mic, all up in my grill.
Oh, you mean like the Kraken?
The Kraken.
Yeah, he's interested because there's people here.
Yeah.
Get out of here. So, let's start with the basics. Zombie, slow moving. Best example, Romero.
Romero is quite a guy. If you don't know this guy,
Probably the patriarch of zombies.
yeah. He's disappeared from my whiteboard here. Alright. Well, he's pretty much the son of commercial artist, George Andrew Romero. He loved watching movies growing up, as we all do. There was a film called The Tales of Hoffman, an adaptation of an opera, would be an early influence for him. Bro, the numerous films as a teen, watching them on a projector at home. Romero once said that the only one person took this movie out as much as he did, which would be the Tales of the Hoffman. The other fan turned out to be Martin Scorsese, actually. That's another story for a later time. He actually graduated from, he studied in Carnegie Mellon University in Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania. He was interested in art, theater, and design, as well as film. At the beginning of his career, Romero made short films and commercials. One of his early breaks was making educational shorts for the PBS children's miniseries, wow, Mr. Rogers' Neighborhood.
Mm-hmm.
That's pretty amazing. We all know George for his breakthrough with the 1968 film Night of the Living Dead.
Great film.
He pretty much...
Coming for you, Barbara!
Barbara. This movie was a pivotal black and white horror film. A group of people seek refuge inside an old farmhouse to escape the clutches of flesh-eating zombies. The recently deceased had been brought back to life with some type of radiation. There's radiation zombies, there's all kinds of zombies. Eventually becoming a cult classic, the film made waves with its graphic violence. Others saw the movie as commentary about the modern family and society, which is kind of cool. Ryan, what do you think?
Yeah, I saw the documentary on it with Romero and some of that social commentary that comes with it. The thing was, that was the first time that a black actor was the lead, and he was next to a white actress, which is, I don't know, she would be the supporting or co-star.
Mm-hmm.
Either way, yeah, that was one of the first times you saw a black actor, and it was sparked some outrage because at times he slapped her because in the film she was going a little, having a nervous breakdown and keep her sane.
Calm down, Barbara.
Yeah, just whap, 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 whap. And yeah, that's the first time really an African American was.
Other than
the
Blazing
star.
Saddles.
Well, I mean, this was 1968 when it came out, so kind of just give like a background with Romero. He started out 1968 was Night of the Living Dead, very first zombie when he did. Then you drop down to 1978, so 10 years later, Dawn of the Dead. Which, fun fact here, most of the movies, he's just like Stan Lee. He will be in the background.
Oh, nice.
It's ridiculous. Usually he'll play like a reporter or a director.
Yeah.
In Night of the Living Dead, at the end, the Washington Reporter, that was him. In Dawn of the Dead, he was a TV director. In 1985, he did Day of the Dead. He just appeared as a zombie with a scarf. And then you get down to the remake of Night of the Living Dead in 1990. Up until then, he was director, writer, editor, actor in them. Once you get into 1990, he basically was just a writer. Didn't direct it, didn't edit it, kind of went through with it. And it kind of repeats itself because that's what people do now. Is it's always a remake of the original.
Aesop's Fables.
Exactly. So, past that, I think that's all the movies that he's done, with the exception of 2009, with Survival of the Dead.
Yeah.
Which he wrote and directed. So, but that one wasn't really well received. I don't know if you've ever seen it.
Wait, the 2009?
Yeah.
Was that
Is that the one where they used guns?
Was that the one where they were
When the zombie used
stuck
weapons?
in the mall, and it was remade, and it was... Was that the remake, the 2009 remake of Dawn of the Dead?
No.
Like the 2000 one, where they were stuck in that...
No, this is
Gunshot
Survival of the Dead. Let me give you a synopsis of the plot.
Okay.
The prologue follows an action of National Guard. Sergeant Nicotine Crockett, along with Kenny, Francisco, a tomboy, deserted at their post. And basically, just from like looking at it, it just sounds like it was a bunch of like National Guard guys left behind, and that's it.
Holy cow.
So during the zombie apocalypse, so it's like it follows them.
Yeah.
So, and apparently it happens off the coast of Delaware on Plum Island.
So the zombies are really boring.
Yes.
In Delaware.
Delaware. So that's Romero, obviously godfather of zombies.
Yeah.
Does anyone know the very first time they talk about a zombie?
In a really, 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 really old movie. I know that.
There was a book.
A book, yeah.
Didn't have to do with zombies.
Yeah, I've seen this in many commentaries. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. It was in Bram Stoker's Dracula.
Yeah.
I didn't refer to him as a zombie, but essentially that's what he was.
Yeah. It's like the first reference, but like the first reference to a zombie in a movie is from not Frankenstein, but like I can't even remember the name of the movie, but I if I saw like a clip of it, I would remember.
Well, zombies were used before Romero,
Yeah.
but they weren't flesh-eating. They were just kind of like mindless slaves.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
They weren't undead creatures.
No.
No, that falls back into the voodoo zombie.
Right.
Yeah. That's what I was. There is a movie, a really old movie, like referring to the voodoo zombies, and
Well, there's the movie White Zombie.
that's the one.
which is the black and white classic.
Yeah.
Where the insurance salesman goes down and becomes a zombie.
Yeah. I don't know if pretty sure
that's
it was
White
White
Zombie.
Zombie. Yeah. The one I was seeing in the commentary, yeah.
Which, if you think about, that was a definition of zombie. Was like a mindless droll.
Yeah.
Now we think zombie eats brains, eats flesh. That's it, you know.
Yeah.
No one controls them. They just kind of wander around, you know, looking for Carl.
Carl now.
And I mean, they've really got oversaturated, saturated on that. Obviously, The Walking Dead is definitely a good example of that. Kind of beating a dead horse. But what do you think? I mean, what's the most influential zombie movie of our time?
Zombie movie?
Or book, or...
I would go with Walking Dead. I just think with what we've seen from the 80s and 90s and how little zombie
Culture,
genre has evolved since then, it was usually... with the Night of the Living Deads, they were kind of campy. Where, like, the two dopes that, like, always... they were the same two actors in both movies. But they, like, breathed it in, and then it just got kind of silly from there. But I think Walking Dead was one of the first adaptations that built on the drama. It was more on the drama of the human interaction than it actually is with the zombies.
Yeah, the isolation.
Yeah, you have that, okay, yeah, there's these zombies, but how do we deal with one another? Like, the biggest problem isn't the zombies, it's humans at this point. So I think with the drama that brings, I think that adds a different level to the zombie genre.
Yeah.
It's like Real World, but you better fucking watch your back. It's like the Real World on TV, but it's shit's hitting the fan, and you better just watch your mouth.
Yeah. And I mean, did you get to read the graphic novel?
I've read, yeah. I'm not up to current, but I've read a good amount of the novel.
I mean, the show pretty much follows the graphic novel. They take some liberties, kill some people, keep other people alive, but it does pretty follow that storyline. It's interesting to see, like, how they have such a conflict with other people. Like, the moment, this major epidemic happens, it just, like, everything goes to shit. Like, people don't care about people anymore. Yeah. It's just like, fuck everybody.
Yeah.
Or, it's like, screw everybody.
Yeah.
So.
Either way.
Yeah. So, I mean, and you are right, it's probably the most influential one that we have right now is, The Walking Dead and, Fear the Walking Dead,
But, I got a rebuttal to that.
He's rebuttaling.
Rebuttal. I'm not, but it's like a reference to what George A. He's like, talking crap about The Walking Dead, actually. But I'm not.
That's not good.
I'm just reading kind of a paraphrase what Romero thinks about it. But he thinks The Walking Dead is just a soap opera with the occasional zombie. Which is what it is.
That's definitely how you explained it. It's not so much soap opera, but
it's a human interaction.
It definitely has to do with how people handle the end of the world.
Yeah, because the television aspect has a different dynamic than what you get with film. Whereas film, you get 90 minutes to tell a story. Characters have a problem, they need to resolve the problem, and then conclusion. And that's it. You try to tell that as best you can in an hour and a half, 2 hour film. Whereas you get a lot more liberties with that, with a
TV show,
12, 14 episode, hour each television series. You can have character development. You can kill characters that you like. You can make ones up. You can invent a lot of different things. Yes, that's the staple of, I think, The Walking Dead is the drama.
Yeah.
Because you don't get that you get the suspense, you get the fear with the movies,
Mm-hmm.
You get the gore, and that's what you're there for, but you want to see...
Well, I definitely agree with that because of the fact that you don't get that with the movies. With the movies, you're definitely just looking at one case scenario. You know, and the TV show definitely has that chance where, say there was a plot hole, they always have that chance to go back and fix that plot hole. Movies don't.
But he does argue that how he feels about basically what you're talking about, the zombies are huge, like right now with The Walking Dead. But he feels that, like, he doesn't have a horse in the race because what they're trying to focus on is the people, but when he tried to do it, he always used the zombie as a character for satire or for political criticism, and he finds that's what's missing in what's happening right now.
I disagree with that because of the fact of, I think now more than ever, we face a society of emptiness because of the fact of how disconnected we are in a world that's so connected that I think if we lost all those abilities to contact via Facebook or anything with the internet, I think people would revert to a very seldom distrusting life. You know, and I think that the whole idea of zombieism now is, you know, a byproduct of idiocracy. That, you know, people stare at their phones and stare at their computers so much that they don't...
Their tablet right now.
Exactly, but, I mean, obviously that's for research purposes, but, you know, I'm guilty of it myself, you know. There's days where I will stay on and be watching something or doing research on something, and 12 hours goes by and I don't realize it happened. I mean, so the satire is there in that sense, but Romero definitely covered satire a lot differently, because obviously, like you said, first character was, you know, he was African-American guy. They killed him at the end of the movie, you know.
Oh, Jesus.
They look through the window, they go, oh, he's a zombie, and they shot him in the head, and then they dragged him out with a hook.
Wow.
Yeah. I mean, technically in that movie, that was pretty much like, you know, Night of the Dead was supposed to be just one night that it happened. They killed all the zombies, and that was it.
Yeah.
You know? But what do you think, Ryan?
Yeah, Romero has a point. I think zombies now are... You can have a socio-political connection to a lot of things. Racism, a broken healthcare system, global warfare, nukes. I mean, you could tie a lot, advancement of technology, the disconnect from reality and the digital age, to zombies. I mean, there's a lot you could do now. But he has a point. I mean, he even did that back in the 60s.
Mm-hmm.
But he's got a point there. But I think that The Walking Dead's doing something different.
Yeah.
I don't think
it's kind of good to do something different, because after a while it's like,
right,
dude, you can only make so many movies like about
zombies
zombies walking around like shooting them, like without another story, like with more story, make the story more chunkier than just people surviving in a mall, or people surviving in a farmhouse, or people surviving in a gun shop, or like.
And for the longest time, you know, it was always the same thing. It was, okay, well, it was a government experiment, or, you know, the gates of hell reopened and people were just coming back, you know, people weren't dying anymore. It was this or that. And then we kind of got into a different mindset when we referred to zombies, and that's how we got 28 Days Later, was, you know, the rage zombies. Those people weren't necessarily zombies. I mean, obviously they come back from the dead in that sense, but I mean, that was the first time that they ever talked about. There was one scene, I don't know if you guys have seen the movie, but the guy's walking and he looks up and blood splats in his eye, and that's how he transforms. You know, and to me that was an amazing idea, because of the fact of, you know, it changed the dynamic of, oh well, you know, you got bit, or oh, you got it, you know, you died and there's just no afterlife anymore. It's just you automatically come back and hunger for flesh. It was this, well, people aren't so much dead and coming back to life, they're getting infected with this. It's pretty much like rabies. You know, and the Crazies did that too, where it was, and Romero did that movie, where they, you know, they basically completely changed what their mindsets were, and they became so violent and everything. But 28 days later, they're considered zombies too. So I mean, definitely the idea from zombie has definitely changed over the years. So I mean, how do we define zombie nowadays? Is someone feeding on the flesh of the living and coming back from the dead, right?
Yeah.
So I mean, and you said so yourself, Ryan, that we think zombies are more traditional, the voodoo background. That's where folklore came with them, is that, and obviously they talked about them as, the undead servants of vampires and witches and stuff, and it's definitely such a weird thing that now when someone talks zombie, they immediately go for Romero. Like, oh, well, just something that came back to life that feeds on flesh. So I would love if we did another zombie movie, like another new one, that maybe they cover more of the traditional background with it and kind of go from there.
Or just do both.
Yeah.
Like, do both parts equally,
Yeah. I remember seeing a movie a couple years ago. We were watching a bunch of, like, B-rank zombie movies for Halloween. And there was one that was actually called Zombie, which is Zombi. Have you seen that one?
It's an Italian film, isn't it?
Uh-huh.
Yep.
And the zombie fights a shark.
Yeah, it's really bad.
It's bad. It's like...
He fights a shark underwater. It's really good.
It brings a whole new idea of jumping the shark. But, yeah. But that's zombies for you. I mean, no matter what, they're always going to be undead for the most part, or considered in a lifeless state, and that they're always going to be controlled either by unrelenting need to feed or by some kind of mind control. For me, I think zombies are really cool because of the fact that it explores the idea of a lot of people's fears with the afterlife and dying. I mean, that's a lot of people's fears that well, I'm not going to be at rest. And a good movie that kind of makes a joke and pokes fun at that is Shaun of the Dead. Where they still have some of their old memories and their old mannerisms. I mean, what do you think? I mean, what's your takeaway from zombies?
I just see them as just the old 80s movies. Just campy, silly, fun time. And some of that has to do with Romero. I kind of see the contradiction in his criticism of Walking Dead when he says that it's just a soap opera. Yeah, I get on that, but I mean, where's the distinction between your films where you have a political satire in your original Night of the Living Dead, but then you make those 80s movies where they were really silly? Yeah, I mean... And it wasn't more of a... What was it really satiring? Are you satiring zombie films? Are you satiring horror films at the time? Yeah, exactly. Are you satiring... I mean, because in the 80s, he did a lot with, he referenced a lot of Vietnam references and a lot of just army references and distrust in the government. Did he do the one with Tarman? I think Tarman's I think it's more of a YouTube reference, but in one of them where they have like that gang where that girl dances naked on the tombstone, and then they have that one guy with like a lot of tats, and anyhow they go down into the basement, and then there's Tarman down there who busts through the I think that's this container, and then he's like, more brains. And he talks. Like, and the zombie talks, and then also in that one, I believe that's the same one where they have that headless cadaver or mannequin that comes to life for no reason. Where like the pets that are cut in half, that are dissected and. I know exactly trays. Which one you're talking about, and in that one, it was like it didn't matter what you did to the zombie didn't die. You could put it, and that was making fun of zombie films where they came up with the idea of shoot him in the head. Yeah. Even if you did that, it didn't do anything. You had to basically reduce them to ash, burn them, incinerate them. And even that backfired. That's right, and then it went into the air, and then it becomes went into the rain. And then it infected all the cemetery. How fortuitous that a giant rain cloud appeared
Mhm.
mixed with
Holy crap.
The chemical, yeah. So then they're back at square one, and there's no winner there.
yeah.
I've always liked the idea of that.
Mhm.
So, to kind of wrap it up and bring it back to our kind of nerd culture and everything, Cody had found something when we were researching zombies,
Yeah.
and it has to do with Romero. Obviously,
Oh,
you can't
yeah.
really talk about it past that, but you want to...
Oh, yeah. It was, it's a book, actually. It's a comic by Marvel. Just recently released, kind of-ish, recently. Empire of the Dead, by Marvel Comics. That began in 2014. His second comic after The Death of Death, which was a miniseries he wrote for DC in the anthology Toe Tag 2004-2005. It features zombies similar to those in his films. One way the series departs from his films is that vampires are also a very part of their story.
Mhm.
He had announced the series in 2013 as a 15-issue miniseries split between 5 acts. So, Act 1 launched in January 2014 by Alex Maleev and ended in 2014 of June. Act 2, which featured art by Delabor Telajik, began in September 2014 and ended in January 2015. The final Act 3, probably not the final act because there's supposed to be 5, but the most recent one, Act 3, features art by Andrea Muddy. That may or may not be correct. Have to double check.
Yeah, we weren't sure what the
Andrew-
pronunciation of
Yeah,
the
it
actual name.
began in April 2015 and ended in August 2015. So I'm thinking maybe it's been a year. We might put out another couple.
No, what happened was that he originally wanted to do it as 5 parts, but he decided to do 3, split between 3 5-issue acts, and that's where we got the 15 issues. So he had changed it halfway through.
Oh, okay.
And decided that he was going to do it that way. And I don't know if anybody's read it, but it does cover with a lot of the Day of the Dead, Dawn of the Dead. You have the zombies that come back, take over humanity, pretty much. But then you get basically, the vampires have always been there. They've been in the shadows, never really bothered too much. And they take that as a advantage point to take over the world. And basically they become warring nations. And it's so-so. I mean, it's classic, zombies, and then, the idea of someone being a mastermind over them, which was pretty cool. I would definitely suggest reading it. I don't want to spoil the ending to it because it's actually kind of fitting for the idea of, zombies and vampires. But that kind of brings me into another part that we were talking about. But that's the next topic that we're going to be talking about is going to be vampires.
Yeah.
Obviously, if we're going to talk about the undead, zombies are the most popular right now, but vampires are a very close second. It used to be you couldn't go anywhere without talking about vampires. You can thank people like Anne Rice and
Stoker.
yeah, obviously. We won't give credit to things that aren't actually vampires. No sparkles here.
Nope.
This is a sparkle-free zone.
Don't even say it.
Exactly. But when it comes to zombies,
I want to say it really bad.
Right.
I'll hold it in.
You hold that in. We're good.
Yeah,
But I think with zombies, I've ran out of things to say about them.
I think I've ran out of things to say.
So Ryan, thanks for coming in for this episode.
Thanks for having me again, fellers.
Yep, we appreciate it greatly, and we look forward to hearing your input on the next one. So, awesome. Have a great night, guys.
Peace.
Bye.